On the night of April 14, 1912, the RMS Titanic wasn't just a ship sinking into the Atlantic. It was a courtroom, where wealth was the judge and the poor were the defendants. We're told the iceberg was the only villain, but the dark truth is far more human. Some people didn't just fail to survive, they were left to die, deliberately. Tonight, we uncover the cold, hard reality of the souls sacrificed to the freezing deep. The Titanic was a floating social experiment. 2,224 souls, divided not just by decks, but by destiny. In the eyes of the White Star Line, the unsinkable label wasn't a guarantee of safety. It was an excuse for negligence. While the rich toasted to the ship's grandeur and first class, the seeds of disaster were already sown. Greed cut corners on lifeboats, and a brutal class hierarchy ensured that when the water rose, the gates stayed locked. The tragedy was not just the ice, it was a choice. The math was a death sentence, 20 lifeboats for over 2,000 people. But the tragedy wasn't just the shortage, it was the selection. First-class passengers were ushered to the boat deck with polite urgency. Meanwhile, deep in the belly of the ship, third-class passengers faced a labyrinth of locked gates and confusing orders. They weren't just low priority, they were an afterthought. Eyewitnesses later spoke of the barrier. It wasn't just steel. It was a social bias that deemed some lives more recoverable than others. In the chaos, the first lifeboats launched were half empty. 65-person capacity boats leaving with only 12, 20, or 28 people. Every empty seat was a death warrant signed in the name of panic and privilege. As the Titanic's stern rose into the air, the veneer of civilization vanished. Survivors in the boats described a sound that would haunt them until their dying day, a collective, high-pitched wail from the water. Many begged the officers to row back, most refused. They feared the desperate commoners would swamp their boats. Official reports would later try to sanitize the horror, blaming the suddenness of the event. But the survivors knew better. They watched from the safety of their half-full boats as fathers, mothers, and children were swallowed by a sea that was 28 degrees Celsius. In that temperature, the body doesn't just freeze, it shuts down in agony. Here's the darkest secret of all, the bribes. Rumors and testimony suggest that some of the elite didn't just take a spot, they bought it. While hundreds were being swept off the deck by the rising tide, others were paying off crew members to ensure their lifeboat didn't turn back for survivors. This wasn't just a maritime accident. It was a choice. Over 1,500 people perished, and while the iceberg tore the hull, it was human morality that let the ship go down with empty seats. Privilege, power, and greed determined the final head count. The Titanic now rests 2 miles down, a rusting monument to the arrogance of man. It serves as a grim reminder that in a crisis, the true disaster isn't always the act of God. It's how we treat one another when the lights go out. The ship was unsinkable, but the human heart proved all too fragile. If this deep dive into the dark side of history moved you, hit like and subscribe for more untold stories. And tell us in the comments, in a moment of survival, does morality even exist?